first Saturday in the longest month of the year for college football teams was no joke. You can just tell we are in for a wild ride for the last 4 weeks of the regular season. We had a couple top 10 teams go down, which of course means there is a shakeup in our ATB top 12. One program we want to let you know about Tuesday night, 8 p.m. We are going live along with all of you to watch the first college football playoff committee rankings of the season. We're going to react, give you our live thoughts in real time. Those were some of our most fun shows we did last year. Just kind of watching with all you and giving our, reactions right off the cuff. So we'll be on our YouTube channels. We'll be on X. So tune in, set your reminders, click the notification bell right now on YouTube so you can watch along with us on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Nohe, Lance Barton. Real quick before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe, whatever platform you're tuning in on. Make sure you follow us on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Always Talk Ball. Our weekly recap episode brought to you by Frost Buddy. Had to whip out another one again tonight. The Hoosiers, they're just rolling. They're breaking every single power rating model out there. Just ridiculous. Frostbuddy.com/ATB. They got tumblers out now, and they've got like these little things too. Like you can put your iced coffee in there too. So, just all kinds of stuff, man. All kinds of teams. I got over 80 colleges. I even got Liberty on there, my alma mater. So I was surprised about that. Yeah. So, go to frostbuddy.com/ATB and get yourself a can cooler. All right. We got a ton to talk about. We're just going to jump right in. We're going to move as fast as we can tonight because it's a loaded show. Let's start in Miami/Dallas, wherever that game took place. Miami goes down to SMU 26-20. Overtime game. Where do we even begin on this one, man? Like SMU came in, they were 12.5-point underdogs when we did the preview pod last week. Got all the way down to 8.5. Major money coming in on the Mustangs, probably some of that oil money down there in Texas. But now Mario Cristobal is 4-9 in the month of November at Miami. Turns out not leaving the state of Florida until November might not have been a good thing for the Hurricanes. Also, man, you can always count on my guy, Carson Beck. You can always count on him to make one of those plays. We said on our preview show that SMU, the one thing they could do on defense was absolutely stop the run. And this game was going to be on Carson Beck's shoulders. And what did Miami keep doing, Lance?
Just running the ball right up the middle into the teeth of a 9-man front. And not even like any, again, with the athleticism that Miami has, with the offensive line and the athleticism of the offensive line that they've got, and with the overall, like the ability to be multiple on offense with all the weapons that they have, to just line up. And SMU literally is packed. Like you think about it, and it's just amazing. Like, and I'm wondering too, was it Shannon Dawson that was doing that, or was it? I think his name's Alex Mirabal, who's been with Cristobal forever, the offensive line coach. He's the run game coordinator. And I saw some stuff on X from some like big Miami accounts that they were saying that they think that there's, I don't know if this is true or not. This is just what I'm seeing. That they were saying that there's maybe a little bit of a rift there between OC Shannon Dawson and Alex Mirabal, Cristobal, like a little power struggle there on doing, because dude, maybe I'm just way off on this. I don't think I am. Obviously, I wouldn't be saying it. I don't think Shannon Dawson wants to line up and compact an offense and just run into the teeth of a 9-man front right in the A gap over and over and over again in those situations. I mean, that is nothing about his history as a play caller and the type of offense that he runs would tell me that that's what he wants to do. That's got big Mario Cristobal. We want to line up and see if we can just bully you and be more man than you right here. That's like big bro Mario Cristobal. That's what that is. That's what that seems like. And we're just going to line up and out, physical you. And when it doesn't work the first 3 or 4 times, maybe stop doing it and try to get your athletes on the perimeter or something. But yeah, man, they just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I just think that this is, once again, Mario Cristobal, like you said, 4-9 in the month of November. 7 of those 9 losses, Tyler, are to unranked opponents. 7 of the 9. So the majority of those losses in the month of November, his team is this more superior, talented football team, and they continue to lose. Uh, this one was tough, man. I have been on the Miami bandwagon this year, backed them when others wouldn't, backed Carson Beck, literally stood on the had people texting me going, "Man, you really might be the only one on that hill willing to die for Carson Beck." And I said, here I am." Did not see myself doing that, but there I was. And he was making me look good until that Louisville game. And he had his moments that he was making me look good in this last game. But then when they needed him the most, they reared its ugly head again there in that overtime. But it's gotten to the point now, man, where it just needs to be said once again, and I'm going to say it right here. We can talk about SMU here in a second, but this is the thing that I want to talk about the most here. Mario Cristobal is an elite recruiter, a really good motivator, and for the most part, he does a really good job of being able to evaluate assistant coaches and hire staff around him. He is a trash in-game football coach to have the athletes that he has year in and year out that he brings in. Again, he's responsible for bringing in those athletes. I'll give him credit for that. That he's a great recruiter and brings in really good players and really good talent. But to consistently, year after year now, to just be more superior athletically, physically, have a better football team on paper and on the field, and you just continue to find ways to lose. You're conservative in situations where you shouldn't be. You play not to lose at the end of games. Like it's just constant. Like you and I talked about after that Notre Dame game. A ton of credit for winning that Notre Dame game. But dude, Notre Dame was in that football game in the fourth quarter because of Mario Cristobal. Like this, they won that game despite of him. In spite of him, however I'm saying, the correct word to say there. And that happens a lot of times in these Miami games. And dude, we have Miami fans that constantly come at us and look, they're in a better situation overall program and roster wise since he's been there than they were before he got there. I'll admit that. But here's where, dude, Miami fans, get ready for this. I saw somebody put this on that. It was a really long, I think you might have been the one that sent it to me. And they're spot on. This is going to hurt deep, going to cut deep. Manny Diaz is doing a better job at Duke than what Cristobal is doing at Miami when you consider the situation and when you consider the resources and just where you're at. Like, bro, there's 10 people in the stands at Duke. They don't hardly have any NIL money. They blow their wad to go get Darian Menza at quarterback. And they've got Ivy League white guys running around at wide receiver while Miami's just plucking people out of the transfer portal and got Malachi Tony and JoJo Trader and athletes galore everywhere.
Yeah, Manny didn't have that when he was at Miami.
No. It's baffling to me. If I was a Miami fan, you should expect more. I'm not saying right here, right now, in the day and time where everybody's just firing their coaches, that Miami needs to fire Cristobal. That's not what I'm saying at this point. But it is now at the point where he is on the clock for, if you're going to continue funding that much money into that program to go get all these players, the pressure is on you. It's more of the NFL way now in the college football when it comes to coach. Like you see in the NFL, somebody has a really bad season, you're gone. Or you have 2 bad years, you're gone. That's what college football is becoming. And if you're going to continue to have better players and a better roster and more talent that your boosters and everybody's funding for you to do that, and then you continually go and lose games you shouldn't lose, that well's going to dry up eventually. Or they're going to go get somebody else that can take all that talent that they're funding you to go get, and somebody else will coach them for you. I'm not saying it's going to happen now, but dude, next year, for example, Miami's sitting there with a significantly better roster than half the teams that they play in the ACC, and they're losing 2 or 3 games in conference and can't even make the freaking conference championship game in arguably the 4th best Power 4 conference.
It's not arguable.
Okay, there you go. It's a shame, man. It's a shame. Miami fans should expect better on that, and don't blame you. If I was a Miami fan, I'd feel the same way.
Yeah, and think about the coaches the last couple of years he's lost to. I mean, like I said the other day, I want to talk about the coaching matchup. Brett Lashley outcoached him. Brent Key outcoached him last year. Fran Brown outcoached him last year. They didn't have a defense last year that hurt too, but these are solid coaches, and he's just not up to par with those coaches, and I'm not sure he's ever going to be. So props to SMU for winning the game. I mean, they lost last week to Wake Forest, 13-12. Couldn't have been a better spot for them to come back and play really hard. It was their homecoming. They had Craig James in the stands. They had Eric Dickerson in the stands. Like it was a really good day for SMU football. Really good day for Rhett Lashley. They had a ton of connections. That staff has a ton of connections with Miami. 3 of their 4 captains they brought out for that game all were previous Miami players. Tyler Van Dyke being one of them. What do we say about Miami from the very beginning of the season that no one could really expose? Because you talk about that Notre Dame game, CJ Carr was playing his first game, and the game plan they called did not expose that secondary. Yesterday, Miami's front shut down SMU till overtime. They ran for 23 yards. Kevin Jennings threw for like 350 yards on that
Yep.
secondary
Yep.
because literally we talked all season about how that secondary had not been tested yet. And it finally got tested. We saw what happened. Now it is going to take mass chaos for them to get into the ACC championship game and for them to get into the playoff. And everyone wants to talk about, 10-2 Miami versus 10-2 Notre Dame. I think you're going to see on Tuesday when the committee comes out,
Agreed.
and you saw it in the AP, Notre Dame's already 8 spots ahead of Miami. Miami, the rest of their schedule, same as Notre Dame, but the rest of their Miami schedule, they don't have anyone on that schedule except for maybe Pitt at the end of the year. Pitt keeps winning. They don't have anybody on their schedule that's going to be like, oh man, we should really leapfrog them a bunch of other teams because they beat, Virginia Tech or whoever.
Who does Notre Dame play this week, Tyler?
They play Navy.
And then who do they play after that?
They play Pitt.
They play Pitt.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if Pitt keeps winning, if Notre Dame beats Pitt, like again, there's nothing as long as Notre Dame keeps winning. I agree with you that the committee, and we'll talk about this more on Tuesday night. More than likely, the committee is going to have Notre Dame farther ahead and so many spots ahead of Miami that they're not going to be able to make up for it without winning the ACC championship. But I mean, at this point, man, SMU now is squarely in the mix for the ACC championship again. And you're right, man. That looked like what a moment for SMU to have that moment when they just extended Lashley earlier in the week,
Yeah.
kept him from going to Arkansas because that is the reason why they did what they did. The Hogs and all the money that they've got there with the Walmart money and the Tyson chicken money and everything else there at Arkansas was coming after their one of their homegrown boys there in Lashley who played high school football and grew up in the state of Arkansas. They were coming after him, and SMU stopped it from happening. And then he delivers, man, with a win over a top 10 team at home with all those huge boosters and X names that they're from the Pony Express that were there on live television. I mean, just a huge moment, man, for SMU football. Honestly, that is the second biggest moment in SMU football. And like, maybe I'm being prisoner of the moment, but like of my lifetime. Seriously. Like last year, them making the playoffs was number one. Unless I'm just thinking like something like off the top of my head that I'm not thinking of.
They didn't even have a win as big as that last year when they made the playoff.
No, not at all. Like far as the win, absolutely. Biggest win, yes. Moment wise, them making the college football playoff and the ACC championship game don't get much bigger than that. But them winning that game in that moment after beating out an SEC program to show the world that, like, hey, look, y'all don't think that us here at SMU, a place that's known for dollar bills, that we ain't got money. We'll show you. And we go make Rhett Lashley a top 10 highest paid coach in the game. And then you beat a top 10 team with all that stuff on national television. Yeah, dude, that was big time win for the Ponies. And they're squarely in the mix for this with them and many other teams. We'll talk about that more here in a minute for the ACC championship.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I got a question for you though. You ready for this? I'm not sure if it's ever been asked before, but is Texas back?
I mean, man, we talk about this in certain games. Honestly, since you and I have been doing this now for 3 years, I think it's just like it's raised it to my attention more because we always watch a ton of ball, but like we like watch it at a different, more in depth level, I think, than we have before because we do this show and we try to give you guys the best analysis that we possibly can from our own thoughts and opinions and what we see and what we watch. Uh, we've seen teams in games over the last few years against weaker competition or weaker opponents that like nobody's really paying attention to it and they kind of find themselves in certain situations. I have no idea if they did or not, but I'm wondering if in that second half against Mississippi State, when everybody was doing what they do in regards to Arch Manning and Sark in Texas, making fun of Texas because they still won the game, but they played a close game and escaped against Mississippi State. That was overtime, wasn't it?
Yeah, two
Okay,
back-to-back overtime
yeah.
games.
They escaped in overtime against Mississippi State and Kentucky, but more importantly, in the second half and in the fourth quarter against Mississippi State, did they find a little bit offensively, and then it carried over into this game against Vandy? Because, dude, I watched every second of it. I said before the game that I liked Texas. I ended up having them and betting on them -2.5. Thank goodness I got it at 2.5. But the main reason was is I thought that Texas's offense was just so booty and their defense was so good that Texas's offense, we said it, Texas's offense is just they are what they are at this point. They're not going to all of a sudden just wake up and be much better here in the month of November. Newsflash to us. They look like a different football team, bro, on that side of the ball.
Yeah, let's forget about the fourth quarter for a second. First 3 quarters, I mean, Arch, they looked dominant. Like, they looked really, really good. Like we said,
Running
I think
game?
I feel like I kinda nailed it. We talked about Vanderbilt playing their 4th straight ranked
Well, you
opponent and
did, bro.
just not being up for it.
I was thinking about it during that, man. That defense looked tired, bro.
Yeah, and
They're getting pushed around.
offense couldn't do much to get him, off the field and keep him off the field. They couldn't sustain anything. Felt like he found a little bit of a rhythm, getting Arch in a rhythm early with the screen passes and everything. The screen game is really working. I mean, his average yards per attempt, like air yards per attempt in the first half was like 1.9 or something like that. Like, he wasn't throwing the ball down the field hardly at all, but
But,
they were moving it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but, like, that's kinda what they did with Quinn. I mean, Quinn Ewers wasn't really throwing deep, but, like, they've been used to just getting the ball in the playmakers' hands hands and then making plays, and everybody's just been blaming Arch, but it's been a collective effort. Like, the offensive line has not been good, and the athletes that they've been getting the ball to, like the Ron Wingos and all those that wide receiver core, who, by the way, is pretty much fully healthy now, and CJ Baxter and Q Wisner had not been making people miss. Like, they haven't been getting the ball in their hands and making explosive plays. And they did. They did in the second half against Mississippi State. And they did the first 3 quarters against Vandy. Like, making huge plays, man, making missed tackles, making people miss, running the football, catching the ball on the perimeter, getting 15, 20 plus yard, like chunk plays. You're right, man. They look like a different football team right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they've got a bye week,
Yep.
and then they get Georgia, at Georgia.
Season on the line.
Yeah, season's on the line. I mean, every game's a playoff game for them right now, pretty
Yep.
much.
Yep.
And they get Arkansas after that, then A&M. So they've got a tough road. I mean, Arkansas, they should take care
But
of
still,
them. But
dude, Georgia and A&M down the stretch,
yeah,
and Vandy turned out to be a really good football team this year. Playing at the Swamp in that moment, come with the Gators coming off a bye, that's not easy. Catching Ohio State, obviously at Ohio State, yeah. Texas's schedule this year ended up being a lot different than it was last year, no
yeah.
doubt.
Where
But
does Vandy go from here? They got Auburn this week. They got a bye week. They get Kentucky at home, and then they got to go to Tennessee. I mean, if they win these next 2, they're 9-2. Tennessee lost, but like Vanderbilt gets a win at Tennessee, and they're 10-2.
they're
Like,
in there, they'll be in the mix.
they're in the mix. And
They're in
I
the
was
mix.
talking to you earlier. You were pretty staunch about 9-win team getting into the playoff, but like, I'm not even sure like all these 10-win teams in the SEC and the Big Ten that we could have, and we'll talk more about it on Tuesday or during the CFP, but there might be a 10-win Power 2 team be left out.
Yeah, and that's going to be crazy, man. If that's the case, it's still there's still some scenarios that I still think a 9-3 team could find their way, but I was thinking about it when you sent me that text yesterday, but I don't feel like I've been saying all year a 9-3 team. I think is going to, I believe, not think, I believe is going to get in. I don't believe it anymore. Now it's hanging by a thread that I still think that there's a possibility that one could get in, but it's gonna be tough, man. It's gonna be tough for
Well,
that
and
to happen.
something that helps his case is I think like 48 hours ago, I could give you a couple scenarios where I could see maybe 3 ACC teams getting in. Obviously, Miami losing, that puts a kibosh on that. So I think that helps it. But I mean, you just kind of project out these last 4 weeks, and I mean, we all know what happens when we project, like college football, nothing goes
Smack
the
you
way
right in the
it's supposed
face.
to. Yeah,
SMU shows up and smacks you in the
yeah,
face. Like, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and I think it's gonna be a crazy last 4 weeks, but,
I'm with you. I'm with
speaking
you.
of crazy, let's talk cocktail party
Woo!
down in Jacksonville. The main takeaway I had from this game is, good teams find a way to win, bad teams find ways to lose. That's just it. And it's a good buddy of ours texted us that Georgia's like not very good. Like they're just not like again,
They're not elite.
we're still struggling to get the Georgia from a couple years ago out of our minds. Like they've been like this for the past 18 months. Like this is who Georgia is now. This is kind of who everybody is now, except like Ohio State. But they
Indiana.
in Indiana, yeah. But they just they find ways and like I said it tongue in cheek, but they're just so much grit. They're so resilient. Like it just yeah, they just got everything Kirby loves, right?
Them
So
dogs are tough.
yeah. But they get a 24-20 victory over 3-5 Florida.
Uh, you're right. It's hard for me to say this, and I'm going to say it. Georgia's not an elite football team this year, but they are tough enough and good enough at times and well coached enough that it doesn't matter who they line up with on a Saturday, you never count them out. They can beat anybody in the country, but they could line up against Florida and can lose. They didn't lose, but they were sitting there with every chance happening to where that was like all but like them losing that football game. That's where they are right now. Uh, but like you said, really good teams find ways to win. Well coached teams find ways to win. And I just legit do not think that Georgia in any game, when you watch them play, they do seem pretty unflappable. They get down in first quarters and first halves, and there's like some ridiculous stat that somebody sent yesterday, maybe you that sent it, like how just awful that they've been at the end of the first quarter. Like the score, combined score of Georgia games from the opposition, what their score is, as opposed to what Georgia score is at the end of the like first quarter all year long has been awful. And first half too, in general. But yeah, dude, they just find ways to win games. And it wouldn't shock me to see Georgia make a really deep run. It just this Florida team is going to end up being the most talented, like 4 or 5 win team that I believe we've ever seen in college football. They're going to end up going 4-8 or 5-7, and the amount of talent that is on this team is ridiculous. Uh, what do you want to say? Go ahead. I can tell you want to say something.
I really feel like playing devil's advocate right now.
Go
You
ahead.
know me, you know me. I've been carrying that SEC flag all season. I'm SEC tie this year, right? Stumping for them against the Big Ten, everything.
Which, by the way, if this is your first time listening, it is not something he gets accused of. The group chat of the boys from the South were giving Tyler a hard time for a first couple of years of this pod, but he's been kind of touting the SEC a little bit more this year, and they'd earned it. But now
And
I'm curious what we got. What we got?
again, devil's advocate here, but like I just want to know like why in the SEC when Georgia gets challenged by 3-5 Florida, it's because like the depth of the conference is so strong. You talk about the ACC, the Big 12, even the Big 10. Like you got the ACC, you got NC State beating Georgia Tech, right? The Big 12, you got West Virginia going to Houston and beating them by double digits yesterday, a ranked Houston team. You got Purdue taking Michigan to the wire. You got Wisconsin, taking Oregon, in a rain-soaked Eugene Otson Stadium to a 21-7 battle. Why is it not looked at as the same? And I mean, I get it. I know power ratings, all that stuff, but like you can see why that narrative gets so tired for the people who hate the SEC. Because you're talking about an ACC who NC State beats Georgia Tech, and you're talking about these bottom half teams in the NC State, whoever. There's a bottom half team in the ACC who put a whooping on the SEC leader right now. So, like, you could understand just listeners out there, viewers out there who get tired of the SEC chatter of like why the depth is so strong in those conferences, but it's looked at, oh, Indiana, they play UCLA and Maryland, they're trash. Like, well, no, they're just killing teams. Like same teams Oregon's struggling with, same teams that Michigan's struggling with Purdue.
Yeah, I think it's probably got to, I get the point. If I'm actually just taking my feet and putting them in the shoes of fans of teams from other conferences that like they get tired of hearing that, I get why you would say that. I do. And it took me a while to get to that point, but I do understand why people would say that. I think to answer your question, just my own personal opinion on it, like using Florida, for example, some of those bottom tier teams in those other conferences don't have like I'm just using Florida as an example. The talent level that is on that Florida team, there were NFL dudes all over littered all over that roster on both sides of the ball and freak athletes on both sides of the ball. And then when you play them and you have to go to their place where it's 90 plus thousand and the place is just out of body, out of mind, and they happen to be on that day. Some of those bottom tier teams in the Big Ten and in the ACC and in the Big 12, in my opinion, when they're playing the top tier teams, they don't really have a chance, man.
You're talking about a Purdue program that literally we've referenced having like an all transfer team in 2024.
Right. But that same Purdue team's getting beat by 60 and 50
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like that's not happening to like again, an example this year, it didn't happen last year. An example I'll give is like Auburn literally can't even like hardly cross the 50 in their freaking SEC games. And they literally teabag Baylor on the road this year. Like Mississippi State just won their first SEC game in 2 years and they beat defending Big 12 champ, and when they were healthy, the team that was picked to win the Big 12 in Arizona State, like this year. Now, I'm not saying that happened last year. Last year, there were teams in the SEC, like LSU lost to USC, and like Alabama did lose to Florida State, this year, earlier in the year. Like there's examples of those as well. But I think this year, like non-conference games, I think the SEC against the other Power Four teams was like 10-3 this
Yeah, I think
year.
that's the correct answer.
Yeah. I think that is the reason why I personally look at it like, yeah, I mean, on any given Saturday, there are more chances for you to get beat when the team that is lining up on the other side from you has the talent profile that a Florida has, as opposed to you lining up and playing against Wisconsin and you bring your C minus game and you only win 21-14, you bring your C minus game and Florida brings their A minus game, you can find yourself getting an ass whipping that day, as opposed to the latter, what I was mentioning there with Wisconsin. That's just the way I feel.
Gotcha. Nonetheless, Georgia gets a 24-20 victory. They've got 2 conference games left, so obviously they're still going to need some help from from Texas A&M because Bama's got the tiebreaker over them, and I don't even want to get into the one-loss tiebreakers if there's 3 or 4 teams with one loss yet. So we'll see. Last night on ABC, Oklahoma goes into Knoxville into dark mode,
What a win.
comes out with a 33-27 victory. Sooners, easy now, 192 rushing yards on the game. We talk about them finding that running game against South Carolina. We'll see. The downside for Oklahoma, 11 penalties, 104 yards, 2 turnovers. They were outgained by 105 yards in the game, but they still find a way to win. And it wasn't really as close as a 33-27. R. Mason Thomas with a huge strip sack obviously was like, a massive moment in the game.
Yes, it was.
Joey Aguilar, we talked about Mateer. Mateer kind of, he had his mistakes, but Aguilar in a big game like that really kind of showed his inexperience with big games like that. So the props to Oklahoma winning the game. That was a really big win for Brent Venables, really big win for this team because of the schedule they've got. They're now 7-2. They've got they've got Alabama, they've got LSU, and then they finish off, I think, they got Arkansas still. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's the third biggest win for Brent Venables at Oklahoma, by the way.
Yeah, they're gonna need to win one of these games against, Alabama or LSU, and I think I wanna say that, that 3rd game is against Arkansas. Let me pull it up here. Oh, no, it's Missouri. So
Missouri,
they're
yeah,
gonna need to win they gotta win 2 of these games, to have any shot, which obviously Missouri having quarterback issues, LSU just having issues, helps them out a lot. I was, kind of perusing the message board, perusing social media today. There are actually Tennessee fans out there, Lance, that
dude.
are questioning whether or not
Yeah.
Josh Heupel is the guy to coach Tennessee, and I think I mean, he's obviously to me, he's spoiled that fan base because if they wanna look at who they had and what they were like the 15, 20 years before Josh Heupel, I mean, they were a 6 to 7 win team on average. Like, they were basically what Auburn is right now, like, for 15 to 20 years. And he comes in there and he wins double digits with Hendon Hooker. He goes to the playoff last year with Nico as a quarterback. He gets a quarterback in April out of the transfer portal, and he's got them in position. Now, we'll talk a little bit about their ranking and their resume, but he's had them in position this year with a guy who's been on his roster for 6 months. So, I think it's insanity for them to question whether or not he's the guy.
Yeah, anybody that's questioning him being the coach of Tennessee right now needs to seriously like you're honestly you're a joke. You're a joke. You can be mad and like emotional and everything like that as a fan after last night's game and whatever. You're that's what fans do. But to act like that guy shouldn't be the coach of Tennessee right now is outrageous. And I think it just shows again. I'm not saying it's the masses, but there. I saw them just like you did. There are large groups of people out there. It seems like Tennessee fans. They're questioning whether or not he should be the coach of that team, which is ridiculous. Uh, and
You
spent
know, it's because he has a poor record against ranked opponents, right? There's 90% of the coaches have poor records against ranked opponents, and
yeah,
ranked games are hard to win.
yep. And again, God, dude, you're the SEC haters are going to hate this, but it's just and some of the ranked teams that he's playing against, it's like James Franklin. Like everybody was hating on James Franklin because he kept losing the biggest games to Ohio State and Michigan. Bro, nobody was beating the John like at the heyday of the Jim Harbaugh, like the best Jim Harbaugh Michigan teams and the best Ohio State teams. Bro, nobody was beating those teams except Kirby Smart and Georgia. That was it. Who are the only teams that were beating those teams? Josh Heupel is losing games to Kirby Smart in Georgia, to Nick Saban in Alabama, and now Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. Bro, hardly anybody's beating those teams. And yes, I realize he just lost to Brent Venables in Oklahoma. I'm not going to lie. That was a tough loss, considering how bad they dominated Oklahoma in the first quarter and a half of that football game and to find themselves like Oklahoma. I mean, Tennessee didn't lose that game last night when Oklahoma started playing better in the second half and got things rolling a little bit more in the second half. They lost that football game when they were absolutely killing them in every aspect of the football game except the score because of the turnovers, the interceptions, and that strip sack fumble there in the first half. That was the reason. That was a tough loss last night, no doubt. It knocks you out of playoff, the playoff contention. So that you're emotional as a fan after that. But yeah, I'm with you, dude. That's an absolute joke. And what Josh Heupel's done there, they were an absolute. Honestly, it's an insult to dumpster fire. As bad as what they were. They had coaches running around wise, putting money in McDonald's bags and stuff, trying to get recruits like to come there and still couldn't win football games. Jarrett Garantano was the quarterback there at one point, and they couldn't win football games. Like, and it don't even get me started. And before Jeremy Pruitt got there, like how bad they were. So yeah, I'm with you, man. But as far as that game is concerned, third biggest win for Brent Venables at Oklahoma. The biggest wins when he beat Texas in the Red River game a couple of years ago with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. And honestly, last night might have been bigger than the game against the win against Alabama last year because that win against Alabama last year didn't do anything for him. They just were like, "Attaboy," got a nice
Yeah.
little, knocked Alabama out of the
We'll
playoffs.
give you one more year and put you on the hot seat.
There you go. There you go. I mean,
Yeah,
that's basically what it did. Like last night in a literally, that was a virtual playoff game, bro. That's what that was.
yeah,
That was a playoff
yeah.
elimination game. because I don't think Oklahoma would have been able to overcome it on a resume wise, even if they finished 9-3, that they would have been able to overcome like the head to head stuff and things like that with teams they'd have been going against. But I mean, huge win for the Sooners, and Tennessee's done. An even bigger win when you turn on that television last night and you see that friggin' atmosphere. Bro, Neyland Stadium at night for that dark mode thing, it doesn't get the prestige, I understand, of the Penn State whiteout. And I'm not saying it's the Penn State whiteout, but bro, it's up there, man. The Tennessee dark mode night game. And if you don't believe me, just go to YouTube right now and
That was an
Twitter.
impressive win. I
Yeah,
put it up there with the
exactly.
Oregon win.
Exactly. Like that was extremely impressive by Oklahoma.
It
Considering
may not
the
have got it done in the prettiest of ways, but they got it done.
Yes, considering the moment, virtual playoff game, had to have it on the road, 100 zillion thousand fans in the stands, the blackout, all that stuff. And they found a way to win. So Oklahoma
Gosh,
survives and advances, and they are one of the teams that I still think could be hanging by a thread that could finish 9-3 and could have the resume if it's the right 9-3.
man, so proud of my Sooners. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about OU. Talk about OU more in a little bit. Georgia Tech, darlings of the ACC. They go on the road as and ended up 4.5 point favorites against North Carolina State, and they just get throttled. And I looked today. Honestly, I'll be totally honest here. That game was on a TV I have, but I wasn't like paying super attention to it. So we're going to talk big picture stuff here. I read NC State didn't even had Hollywood Smothers or Justin Jolly on, like they weren't even playing when they put up 48 on Georgia Tech's defense. Haynes King, we talked about Haynes King having to have like a bad game for Georgia Tech to be tested. He had 511 total yards yesterday,
It was a Georgia
and
Tech
they
defense,
still
bro.
lost.
Yeah. So, but Bailey, the quarterback there at NC State, like I had it on my second TV for a good bit, and I did every time I looked up. Man, NC State was having another big play on offense against that defense. That was tough.
583 yards given up by that Georgia. That has got to absolutely burn Brent Key up.
Yeah, yeah, that was tough. That was a tough one for the Jackets. I mean, them and Virginia both have been just living right.
Hey, who's Georgia? What does Georgia Tech and Virginia have in common? Who's beat them?
Yeah, they both went to old Carter Finley and got a little.
Don't turn your back on the Wolfpack.
Hey man,
The old WCW reference.
yeah, old Dave Duran got it going there, man.
Yeah. So ACC picture. We talked about this earlier with Miami. There is a very real scenario. I mean, there's Virginia's up at top because again they lost to NC State. It was counted as a non-conference game, so they're still 5-0 in conference, 8-1 overall. They keep skating by, man. They beat Cal yesterday. They were up by 3. We had Cal plus 4.5. It ended up being like plus 6. Didn't matter because UVA picked it off, decided to run it back instead of just taking a knee and kneeling out the clock. So they won by 10.
Bad beat. That's probably going because Stanford Steve actually had Cal on game day. So I bet you that shows up on bad beats with SVP this week.
Yeah, it was tough. And Virginia, I guess I'm not to the point where I'm going to give them credit yet, but they do keep winning these games. They're kind of like BYU last year, where they just keep sneaking them out. Anyways, they're 5-0 in conference. The next 5 teams in the ACC are all have one loss. None of them are named Miami, by the way, to have 2 losses in conference. But you got Georgia Tech at 5-1. The Pitt Panthers are rolling,
Wagon,
they're
bro.
5-1 in conference, is 7-2 overall. Louisville is 4-1 in conference. I think these are updated. I'm gonna look at something real quick and make sure.
I'll give you some time. You know what I mean. I'll just talk, man. I'll
Yeah,
do what I do
Pitt.
best. Just blabber. If Pitt would have went to that freshman quarterback earlier, where would they be, dude? They're a wagon right now, man. They're just beating people's brains in, and offensively, that Cade Bell offense, man, they're tough. They're tough to deal with, and they, like you said, they've got 2 games, man, coming up here with hosting Miami at Pitt and hosting Notre Dame, 2 high-profile games where they're going to have a lot of people's attentions in those games. And
That the last game that Pitt started Eli Holstein was that game they blew a 17-point lead against Louisville. So I mean, they win that game. The whole ACC picture is different. But again, those two have five or are 5-1. Louisville, SMU, and Duke are all 4-1 in conference. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit more on our live show about the ACC picture.
Does Duke play UVA? They do, don't they?
Duke plays UVA at Duke, so that should be a good one. Um, Georgia Tech still they have Boston College and they have Pitt at Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech and Pitt play each other. UVA and Duke play each other.
Pitt, man, down the stretch. Pitt's got Georgia Tech, Miami, and Notre Dame. Woo!
And Louisville has SMU on the schedule.
And is that SMU?
At SMU.
Look at the ponies, man.
So you do have a little bit of a round robin there with the undefeated teams and the one-loss teams that will all sort itself out with the ACC. But 48 hours ago, man, I really came on here and I thought I was going to say, oh, there's going to be 3 teams in, from the ACC or at least 2. But yeah, it's kind of shaking itself out to where it could possibly only get 1. And honestly, I mean, no offense to our ACC listeners, they only deserve 1. Okay, it's not arguable. It's the 4th best conference. Big 12 is better, top to bottom, than the ACC. Fight me, I don't care.
I was gonna say there'll be some people that will. We've already had that happen at least once. But I'm with you. I agree with you. This year, yes, that is the case right now. But the ACC is like I remember when what was that show, man, that had Lou Holtz and Mark May and that crew, the late
College Game Day Final.
College Game Day Final. They used to spin, because me being also a Virginia Tech fan, spin the ACC Coastal Wheel of what do they call it? The Wheel of Destiny.
Yeah,
The ACC Coastal Wheel of Destiny. Hey, right now it's the ACC Wheel of Destiny because there is no more divisions. That's what's going on in the ACC right now. And speaking of destiny, man, I just don't know that there is such thing as anything good destiny-wise to happen for Nebraska football right now. Dude, what an unlucky break last night, man. Like the blackout, they're sitting there controlling that football game. And Dylan Raiola just breaks his fibula. And on that play, I don't understand why he just held the ball like he did and was like freaking out in the pocket like he did. I just don't understand that. But just brutal loss, man, for the Huskers.
my first bullet point here is Trojans incredibly lucky. That was it. I mean, they're lucky he went down. They would not have won that game had he gone down.
I agree. And I know somebody's going to say, well, that's a terrible. No. If you watch that football game and you think they still would have won that game, it would have taken some serious, like you said, serious luck.
They won the game by 4, and the backup quarterback for Nebraska at one point was like 4 for 6 for 8 yards passing. Like, they couldn't do anything on offense.
No, and Nebraska lost that game when Raiola went down, and any chance they still had, when it was 4th and like a millimeter, and Matt Rule burnt their second timeout there in the second half, which obviously we saw at the end of that game. They could have used those timeouts. They burnt 2 timeouts early in the third quarter, but one of them was midway through the third, when I said 4th and about a freaking millimeter, and he calls timeout to not go for it and to kick a 900-yard field goal.
Short.
And it was short. Didn't even come close. The only thing that giant freshman quarterback could do was run. I just don't understand in that moment when you've really been controlling the line of scrimmage at that point, why you don't just line up there at home at night in a freaking blackout. It just gave you an extension. Like, you look at your players, you look at that offensive line, and you look at that big-ass quarterback, and you just say, hey, can y'all go get a freaking inch? Like, come on. Like, let's go. And instead, you stand that goofy kicker that sits out there all the time. And, when that happened, I just said, they're going to lose this game. From that moment on, I said, they're going to lose this football game. That just told me right there that for whatever reason, they're not playing to win this game in that moment. And they did. Ended up losing. It was no matter what, I know that USC got lucky, all that stuff. I am going to give credit to that was a gutsy win when things weren't going right for them at all. That offense normally is humming as a passing offense. And my goodness, Nebraska really shut them down for the most part, almost that whole game. from throwing the football. It was weird seeing a Lincoln Riley, this Lincoln Riley, this year's USC offense with those weapons at receiver with Jacoby Lane, Micaiah Lemon, not be able to throw the football. That was wow at the effort there from the Husker D. But hey, don't look now. Trojans are right there in the mix, bro. With
One conference loss.
one conference loss, they're in the mix for a Big Ten like race. They're in the mix for a college football playoff.
We're going to talk about the Big Ten race too, because it's you think the ACC race could get crazy, the Big Ten race could get crazy too, and like I said, we could be seeing some 10-loss or 10-win teams potentially be getting left out of the CFP this year. Nebraska's now lost 29 straight games against ranked opponents.
No.
Matt Rule is 2-24 against ranked teams in his entire career.
Oof.
But hey, they just extended him, so they prevented him from going elsewhere.
I love Matt Rule. I still love Matt Rule, man. I think he's a good coach.
I love Matt Rule. I'm just old enough to remember, Nebraska firing Bo Pelini for winning 9 and 10 games a year, but now you're extending a guy 7 years for winning 6 to 7 games. Luckily, they got to 6 wins already because without Raiola, it's going to be tough these next 3 weeks. Utah, let's get to them real quick. They had game day in town. Cincinnati was in town, the higher ranked team. Cincinnati had 5 penalties. They had 2 turnovers, and they still won the game by 31. Like, you ask yourself, how? Oh, that's right. They held the ball for 40 minutes at the time of. They're now power rated. You look at power ratings, K4. They're the 6th rated power team in the country. In the last month, in Pick Six's game grader formula, they are 3rd in the country behind only Indiana and Ohio State. What if I told you at the beginning of the year that on November 2nd, out of the top 7 teams in K4 power ratings, 2 would be from the Big 12 and only 1 would be from the SEC?
I wouldn't have believed you. I would not have believed you.
And one of them is not BYU.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. I honestly, like I said, I told you I stayed up and watched all the way up until the start of the fourth quarter because it had gotten completely out of hand. But dude, that Utah running game, and still Dan Pierre was making some really good throws too in the passing game as well. But that was just an absolute physical beatdown, was what that was.
Utah is such a dang good football team, dude. They just they ran into Texas Tech earlier in the year when Texas Tech was rolling, and then they had to go play on the road to BYU. And those are 2 teams in the Big 12. Then 3 right there. That's the 3 in the Big 12.
They just, man, more than most teams in college football. Like when Whittingham, obviously, when he doesn't have a 3rd string quarterback sitting there playing, like when he's got his QB1 on the field, it's really impressive, man, when you watch them, just how physical they really are and how they overwhelm so many teams. And if you can hold up against them physically, that's obviously that's the only way that you can beat them. And it's no secret the 2 teams that did end up beating them, like BYU and Texas Tech. I said this on the last episode. The 3 best defenses in the Big 12 are BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech. And the best teams on the line of scrimmage in the Big 12 are Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech. So Utah is going to overwhelm most other teams. They used to do the same thing back in the old Pac-12 days. Did I sound like I'm 70 talking about Pac-12?
The old Pac-12.
Old Pac-12, that Pac-12 after dark. But I just remember Utah used to take some of those Pac-12 teams that had high-flying offenses and would just line up and just punk them over and over again. I mean, I remember some of those USC teams, same thing. They would do the same thing to those teams. But that's what they're doing in the Big 12 this year. And there again, I know you're talking about we got the Big 10 crazy stuff going on. ACC's crazy. Hell, the SEC too. All these races in these super conferences right now. Like it's Big 12 is getting interesting, bro. Because obviously the big game that we've got this week with the Cougs and Guns Up in Lubbock. Utah's still sitting right there squarely in the mix.
Yeah, they need Texas Tech to lose one more. They need a lot of stuff to break their way for them to have a shot at the Big 12 championship game. One more thing we're going to talk about here before we get to our top 12. Down on the plains, the Auburn Tigers have fired Hugh Freeze as their head coach. They had to do it. They had to do it, man. Like they just didn't have any other choice, especially after last night when you lose at home to 10-3 to Kentucky. I mean, we just literally watched 7 days ago. We watched Joey Aguilar throw for 400 yards. They had three guys last week. Tennessee did with over 100 yards receiving. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, and Eric Singleton Jr. combined for 10 catches for 63 yards last night. Absolutely inexcusable. And then for Hugh to come out after the game and just again reiterate and just do the same coach speak and just spew the same nonsense. We're so dang close. Like a couple things go our way early in the year. Like he's like, and nobody wants to give, patience and time anymore. Like this is your third year, dude. Like you're 2-16 versus teams with winning record. Like, and I know everybody, I talked to you, everybody in the SEC is saying our expectation is championships, which is literally impossible, but you got to do better than 2-16. You
Yeah,
got to do better than that.
6-16 in SEC play, 2-16 against teams with winning records, and 1-12 against ranked opponents while he was there. It just, with the roster now being back-to-back top 8 recruiting classes, like in my humble opinion, I think it might be worse on you as a coach that you have assembled a really good roster talent-wise and you're still losing. Like, you can look at it and go, well, we just ain't got the raw. We don't have the players, don't have the roster around him, whatever like that for him to go out. Like, he's not fighting with the same deck of cards that some of these other teams are. I'll give an example. Shane Beamer at South Carolina, Mark Stoops at Kentucky. They are going into the majority of their matchups with not even remotely the same deck of cards as a lot of these SEC teams are. That is not the case at Auburn, especially this year. I know it's hard for people to believe this and understand this because how many games they continue to lose. In your head, you're like, well, no, this Auburn team isn't that talented. They wouldn't be losing like they are. No, the recruiting and the talent profile of this Auburn team doesn't have to take a back seat to the majority of teams that they play. I mean, they've had back-to-back top 8 recruiting classes and one of the highest ranked transfer portal classes as far as like per transfer. Like the numbers of transfers they brought in probably don't stack up, but like the transfers that they brought in, the tackle from USC and the tackle from Virginia Tech were two of the top tackles in the portal. Eric Singleton Jr. coming from Georgia Tech was a top wide receiver in the portal. Like they're bringing in really talented players. But the downfall of Hugh Freeze at Auburn, he's supposedly an offensive guru. He's the one calling the plays. It's his scheme. It's his offense. He's the one that's bringing in the quarterbacks, and they're trash. Again, I'm going to use the same phrase. That's putting it nicely. They scored 3 points against Kentucky, like you said. I think Kentucky's been giving up like 30-something points a game in SEC play this year. On your home field.
Yeah.
3 points.
It's inexcusable.
Every single game this year. Like, I'm going to use a good old Southern saying here. My mom would be proud. Bless that defense's heart, bro. Bless their heart. And DJ Durkin. Just coming out there week after week. They're on the field the whole freaking game. And they are just stuffing offenses in lockers. And it's all for nothing. Just all for nothing. Because the offense can't move the ball, can't do anything. Playing musical chairs at quarterback again. But moving on from Auburn on the field at this point and more just the what's next for them. The alignment there from an athletic director and the school president and boosters and all of that stuff is actually as good as it's been there in a really long time.
Seems like it's better than it is at LSU right
I was getting
now.
ready to say it's a significantly healthier situation than LSU. And I don't mean by like overall, like, honestly, okay, time out. Yeah, like even the talent that's on the roster there right now at Auburn, the way that the transfer portal is set up now to where you've only got that one window, whatever that is, second or third week in January. Dude, if they get this right, And that's a big if because they ain't been doing
Yeah.
it lately.
Yeah.
If they can get this right and bring in the right guy, and they're able to keep like the nucleus of like the better players on that roster there, dude, they can win and win in a hurry. There, they got a tough schedule next year and stuff, but like they can win and win in a hurry. And there's already like number one name that has been just it's the worst kept secret out there right now. His name has been heavily linked. Is Sumrall to this, and love him. Think he's a great coach. I mean, he's already won heavily inside that state, but not at the SEC level. Obviously, when he was at Troy, he was really good. Obviously, he's been really good at Tulane. I think his attitude and toughness and stuff like that would do really well there. I think they actually need something like that from the head coaching perspective. Uh, but I have no idea where they're going to go next. I don't know if it's going to be Summerall or not. Uh, the thing that's going to get interesting, though, again, dude, because of the talent that they've got, what if? What if they go out and beat Vandy and beat Podunk and then somehow upset Alabama in the Iron Bowl? And the guy that's been sitting there putting a top 10 defense on the field for you all year long goes and does that as the interim. I'm just telling you, man, I know that place well. That place will rally and the fans will rally around him and they'll be heavily pushing for DJ Durkin to be the guy if they go out and do that.
That's obviously a discussion for a different time. Let's get to our Week 11 ATB Top 12.
Just do it.
You take the odds.
Okay.
I'll take the evens.
Sounds good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number one, hold up that beautiful frost buddy. Hold up that beautiful frost buddy real quick. Number one, the Indiana Hoosiers. They did what Kurt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers do to these teams in the Big Ten that aren't at the top tier of the Big Ten. They go, it doesn't matter if it's on the road, if it's at home, if it's played in the parking lot, if it's played inside your mama's house. They absolutely steal your lunch money and just destroy you and make you like it. It's unbelievable, man, what they continue to do. I looked at that score in the Maryland game, and you're like, okay, Terps giving like, hey, look out, College Park. Terps giving a little bit of trouble there in the snake pit. And then you look up a few minutes later, it's like 45-10. Just they continue just to blast everybody in that conference. I
And
mean,
think about how hard that is to do, like, in today's day and age of college football. We talk about there's
Yes.
never been more parity, and to do it week in and week out and to continually stay focused week in and week out against and not have a letdown at all. Like, their letdown was against an Iowa team who, frankly, we'll talk about the AP poll, should be in the top 25, like, but they're just every single week, methodical 40 to 50-point victories every single week, and doesn't matter who they're playing.
Yep. And Cignetti just always has that team ready to play. It's rare.
Now they did get some injuries against Maryland. I know they've got more depth than they've had in the past, but thanks to the portal and everything. But Elijah Surratt going down, they had the right tackle go down with an injury. I think Aiden Fisher was out a little bit, and again, all those happened early in the game, and they still won by 45. So I'm not necessarily worried about them playing Purdue or Rutgers or whoever they've got next.
They're at Penn State at Happy Valley this week.
Yeah, at Penn State, Happy Valley. I think they're 16-point favorites right now, 14 to 16-point favorites. So could be an interesting one, because obviously that's still a top 25 talent, roster at Penn State. But number two, we still got Texas A&M Aggies there. They had a bye, and they get a big one this week on the road at Mizzou. That's an interesting one, man. I think the line right now is, I want to say it's like 6 or 6.5.
Okay. If we were doing guess the spread, my guess was going to be 7.5.
When I thought it would be a little higher without Purvula, but I guess I don't think the odds makers are taking too much account from Purvula down to Zoller. So both teams are off a bye. I know that Mizzou defense is still well respected, so it still will be a test for A&M's offense. But for now, we still got them at number 2.
Yeah, but number 3, we got the Ohio State Buckeyes. Right now, man, I know the defense has been getting all the publicity all year long, but here the past couple of weeks, rightfully so, Julian Sayin is starting to get his flowers, and he deserves it. The dude is throwing more touchdowns in all these games, and he's throwing incompletions at this point. It's remarkable. And I know that his athletes and the guys he's got around him are just so much better than the opposition that they're playing against for the most part. But I am not taking that away from him anymore at this point. I watched a decent amount of this game and some of the throws that he's making. He's just so accurate. He's not making mistakes. How many games are we watching, Tyler? We see these cats that are just making catastrophic type mistakes over and over again. He's not doing that. And yes, he does have the two best wide receivers in college football on the same roster in Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Absolutely. But he still is lighting it up and is doing everything that they need him to do with what they have around him on that side of the ball and with how great that defense really is. They just need him to be efficient, accurate, don't make mistakes. And then when we call on you to make big plays, make them, he's making them. So he is squarely in the Heisman Trophy conversation at this point. He should be at this point. A couple of weeks ago, according to somebody on Twitter that hates us right now, I don't think he should have been then. He should be now in the conversation. Not saying he's the leader or anything like that, but he's in the mix now with the 5 or 6 people that should be. And so we've got Ohio State at 3 right now.
Yeah, I know we've got haters in our comments on X. We'll probably get some haters on our comments on this video, but I mean, I'm going to say it again. And the 2 teams, 3 teams, if you want to say, with a pulse that he played this year, I know it was his first start. He played Texas. He was 13 for 20 for 126 yards. He played Illinois on the road. He was 19 for 27 for 166 yards. And I guess you could throw in Washington. He threw for 208 yards. He's putting up a lot of numbers against a lot of teams that don't really have much of a pulse. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the Heisman race. I am saying he's got some of the best weapons around him that anybody has in the entire freaking country. And like we said, I've said all along, that makes his job really easy. But again, he's a solid quarterback. 81% completion percentage speaks for itself.
Yeah.
To really set him up for success there.
I think that we just honestly gave the full unbiased picture of Julian Sands, what we just did between the both of us.
Yeah. Number 4, we got Alabama. They stay in the number 4 spot. They were on a bye as well. Here I go again. You got all the bye teams. They're on a bye as well. They got a big one coming up against LSU. I believe it opened up around a 12.5 point spread. It's down to 11.5. I might even saw it at 10.5. I know you're a little scared about that.
This is the only game that I did look at, just in case we did the guess the spread. Bama was 10.5. So it is dropping.
We'll talk much more about that game on our preview episode coming out later this week. But like, just on its face, you told me it was going to be a war, and I was like, I disagree, but there's something about this Frank Wilson guy, man. Something about him at LSU. He's just I mean, it seems like, again, crazier things have happened in college football. They could rally around him, but for now, we're talking about Alabama, number 4. They're leading the SEC. Them and A&M, kind of front runners there. If they went out, they'll be meeting up in Atlanta on the first weekend in December.
And at number 5, we've got the toughest, most resilient team in the country. The Georgia Bulldogs at number 5.
We were talking about the number 5 team in the country earlier is just like not being an elite team. And they're top 5, just like they do every year, just sitting here top 5.
Yep. Yeah, Kirby last year had probably the worst team that he had, considering all the numbers. Found a way to win the SEC championship. Here they are again, bro. The last two, I think they've got 2 SEC games left. Texas at home and Mississippi State.
Dude, if he finds a way to win the SEC this year, like I will have to jump off the SEC train because like you can't be letting a team like Georgia win that conference 2 years in a row with crappy teams like this.
Yeah, without a doubt. Come on now, they're not crappy, but they're just not elite like we've been used to seeing Georgia teams be. And they're like when they're week in and week out, when you watch them play, it's just constantly like, God, there's just something missing. But they just keep finding ways to win football games. They keep making plays. But yeah, Georgia, good win in the cocktail party against their rival Florida. And they've got a tricky spot on the road against Bully in Starkville and Stark Vegas against a Mississippi State team that has just been giving everybody problems in Starkville. And they got their first conference win at Arkansas, sandwiched in between the cocktail party and Texas. So kind of that trap spot type game. So the Dogs at number 5.
Number 6, we got another one-loss team in the SEC, Ole Miss. They're 8-1 now. They got the Citadel coming up. They get Florida at home, and then they get a bye week before the Egg Bowl, which will probably be very valuable for them. But they're sitting here looking real pretty. We talked about Lane Kiffin kind of saying last year, I don't want to go to the SEC championship game. I'll just rather take the week off, host a game in Oxford. And honestly, man, they went out. And if they get some help, they might make the SEC championship game. But if they went out and they're 11-1, yeah, that's exactly what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them not to make the college football playoff at this point. They look really good, man, and they're getting better and better each week. For us talking about some other teams earlier in the year that hadn't peaked yet, Ole Miss is just getting better and better, dude. This Trinidad Cham was like he hadn't played at this level until this year, and he's just getting more comfortable, getting even better running this offense. Defense under Pete Golding is making enough plays to get some stops to get the ball back to that offense. I mean, they look really good right now, no doubt. And then we've got at number 7, undefeated BYU, the Cougs, who were on a bye week this past weekend, and they've got by far their biggest game of the year. And I know the Holy Wars, everybody's going to say the biggest game. I understand. But BYU has a chance to absolutely put themselves about as squarely in that. You want to talk about like possibly getting multiple teams in from the Big 12 in the college football playoff? If BYU goes on the road and beats this very talented Texas Tech team that has everybody's attention, College Game Day is going to be there. And they don't win the Big 12 at the end of the year, but they still have wins like over Utah, and they have a win at Texas Tech. Good luck keeping that team out of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I know BYU still got, because the Big 12 is so wild, they could still lose some other games. But, dude, if they go on the road and beat Texas Tech, they're one of those teams that I think that I'm going to start using the exact phrase. They're going to have to really work at it to not make the college football playoff if they win this week.
And they've got a road trip. They got a road trip to Cincinnati on November 22nd.
Yep, which would obviously be brutal. But again, if that's their only loss, bro, and they got wins at Texas Tech and they got win over Utah and stuff like that, their resume is going to be nice, man. It's going to be nice. And for Texas Tech, like, well, go ahead, go ahead and give them number 8.
Yeah, number 8's Texas Tech. They've got a big one coming up against BYU. College Game Day will be there for the first time since 2008, since the Michael Crabtree Texas game. This is the first ever AP top 10 matchup for BYU. First ever. Any spread guesses on this one?
You got it? Okay. Texas Tech. I'll say Texas Tech 8.5.
10.5.
Oh,
I'm telling you, man. No, we got number 8 Texas Tech. You look back at that Arizona State game, and you wonder too, like, man, if they had Baron Morton, like, what could have happened in that game? Like, would they still be? Would they be undefeated? Because if they're undefeated right now, they're sitting up there in the top 4.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what the committee will do Tuesday night? Will they look at that loss, that 4-point loss at Arizona State, and say, oh, they had their backup quarterback? Like, I mean, it's not above the committee to talk about injuries when they're ranking teams. And so they put a lot of caveats early, and we'll get into it on Tuesday and every other Tuesday from here on out. They make up the rules as they go, and what applies to one team doesn't apply to other teams. So I can't wait for all that stuff. But for right now, we got Texas Tech at number 8.
A really good football team, man. God, they're so good on the line of scrimmage right now. Number 9, we've got the Oregon Ducks. Resume-wise, probably of every team we have going to be having this top 12, the resume is just not very strong right now as far as like the win. They're who their best win is. Again, right now, I think their best win is Northwestern.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about, they've got 3 tough games coming up here.
They do. They're going to earn it here at the end of the season. I saw you tweet out from our again. That's a good plug there. Follow us on X at Always Talk Ball. You had a nice little deal there talking about, I think you put a screenshot of their schedule and said 3 of their next 4 games are gonna be really tough, and you said, honestly, no matter who in the country was playing these 3 of these next 4 games, it'd be tough for them as well. They've got USC, at Washington, and at Iowa, right?
At Iowa this week. Any guesses on the spread on that one?
Oh, dude, that one I'm gonna be way off. Uh, Give me Ducks 13.
Ducks minus 6.5.
Really?
Yep.
Ooh, what time is that game? Is that a night game?
3:30.
Come on.
But hey, second half, daylight savings is now in effect. Sorry to all you daylight savings haters, but second half with the sun will be set about 5:30. It will be night at Kinnick. We'll see if the Iowa Vampires can take the Ducks down.
Yeah, man, we're getting freaking Texas Tech and BYU are playing at 11
No.
a.m. Central, and then we're getting that game in the afternoon.
You know who to blame for this, right?
Fox.
We can blame Alabama and LSU for taking that 7:30 slot, like that game matters this year.
It'll still draw a big number, though.
Yeah.
I
College
can't.
football was a lot better when people didn't give a crap about TV ratings, by
That's
the way.
true.
So,
That's true. You're doing evens, right?
yep. So at number 10, back where they belong in the top 10 of the ATB top 12. Then the first time since week 3, Notre Dame cracks the top 10 here. I'll be honest, man. I watched their game against Boston College, and you look at the stats, and it's 458 to 281 on the total yards, and you look at they average 5.5 yards per carry. That's heavily buoyed by Jeremiah Love's 94-yard touchdown run. They had 28 carries for 65 yards on the other 28 carries. It was a 12-10 game in the third quarter. It was just weird.
It
It was
was.
just weird. It was coming off a bye too. Like, I'm not really sure what to make of it, honestly. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
Well, at least Marcus Freeman now can have something to get on,
Yeah.
get on them hard about going into next week. That run by Jeremiah Love was nuts. I didn't catch a ton of the game, but I happened to be watching when that happened. I just laughed, dude, at his speed and athleticism and stuff. Just crazy.
When
But
he
yeah,
got to the 50, he started looking at he was just talking to the sideline, the Notre Dame sideline as he
Yeah.
was running.
yeah, yeah. They're keeping on, keeping on. They got Navy this week, and then they've got old Pitt coming up
Mhm.
after that. So
Yep.
number 11, we've got Big Game Brom and the Louisville Cardinals.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, the Louisville Cardinals coming in the ATB top 12 for the first time this year. I mean, again, man, the ACC wheel of destiny right now. Good, your guess is as good as mine. But obviously, Louisville winning at Miami was a really good win. But their best players are playing well. I haven't looked today. I know Isaac Brown got injured there in that second half. So I need to see what happened with him there, because obviously if that's a serious injury, that's tough, man. I mean, you're talking about one of the best tailbacks in all of college football. If they lose him, but I mean, dude, old Colin Lacey and Chris Bell, and I mean, their best players, man, are playing really well on offense right now. So Louisville's right there squarely in the mix right now for a playoff berth.
And at number 12,
You kidding? You already grinning.
we've got the Oklahoma Sooners. So we can fight for however long you want on this. 'Cause that's
We
just how it
fought
shook out,
all
guys.
day.
You guys know how we do this. You guys know how we do this. We average out our rankings, and I'll just put it out there. I was higher on Oklahoma than Lance was. And I'm higher on Oklahoma still than I am on Texas. Maybe they'll make me look stupid. Maybe Texas will go to Georgia in a couple weeks and win, and I'll be like, okay, I should have been higher on Texas.
Hey, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm just last week I had Oklahoma ranked, I think 17th. I did not have Texas ranked. And I'm looking at the results on the field on Saturday, and Texas went and they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They were favored by 3. They won by 3. Oklahoma's underdogs. They went into Tennessee, Neyland at night, 26 straight games as a home favorite, winning those. And Oklahoma, it wasn't pretty, but they won the game. And just I get the head to head and everything, but there's been numerous times we've had I mean, we got Louisville number 11 right now. Like, we don't have Virginia anywhere. That's a head-to-head, and they both have the same amount of losses. So, um, yeah.
I also had last week had Oklahoma. And so right now, I'll just tell you this: I had Texas at 12 and had Oklahoma at 13. Was what I had in my rankings. Last week, I also had Oklahoma ahead of Texas, and I feel like I was wrong. So I'm admitting that I feel like I was wrong for
It's very
doing
big
that.
of you.
That I'm admitting that I feel like I was wrong for doing that last week, because this week when I was taking a deep dive into these rankings, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, yes, Texas did beat Oklahoma and absolutely like teabagged them on a neutral field 3 weeks ago. There's number one, but that's not the only thing. As we've said on here before, head to head obviously matters, but it's not the only thing. Uh, Strength of record, strength of schedule, best wins, best the teams you lose to, who's your losses, overall resumes. So metrics, resumes, all that stuff, and on the field, all of those things combined. I don't see anything that says Oklahoma should be ahead of Texas. Not one of those things that I looked at showed me that Oklahoma had better than what Texas had.
Other than the head-to-head, I get the head-to-head. I'll admit it. John Mateer was fresh off of a 17-day, surgery on his hand, which I think the committee will probably look at that too. Um, what about, like you always say, I use my eyeballs to watch Texas play all year, and we talk about resetting resetting the slate and having a clean slate. Again, like I told you, that doesn't mean I do the flash thing from Men in Black and erase everything I've seen from Texas this year. Like, good. Congratulations. You beat Vanderbilt, who was number 9 in the country, okay? But I just can't it just doesn't automatically go away like that. I didn't have them ranked, so for me to watch Texas play yesterday and to be like, "Man, they should really jump up all the way." And I think I have them like 15 or 16, but to have them jump up all the way into, like, the top 12 for me was just a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, and on that, I think you and I have been doing this now, except for 3 years. We correct me if I'm wrong, but we pretty much wipe the slate clean each week when we do this. And I'm not looking at going, well, I had so and so there last week, so I can't, put them there this week. At least I don't do that. Again, like I wrongfully didn't have Texas where I should have had them ranked last week, and so I'm not making that mistake again this week. You're right. On the eye test part, I'll give you that. On the eye test part, like Texas throughout the year has not passed the eye test probably as much necessarily as Oklahoma has at times. But on the flip side of that, like, I mean, Oklahoma did look good against Michigan. Uh, I mean, Auburn can't beat anybody, and Auburn outplayed Oklahoma for about 3.5 quarters in that game in Norman.
Still got the cover. Great
That
teams cover.
they did cover they did cover for us on that safety there, at the end of the game, uh, but when 2 teams have similar resumes, and again, there's not one thing, like, I know I say you and I, more so you, uh, and you've got me on that bandwagon now too, especially after we had him on our show last year. Love K Ford. We'll tout him on this show all the time. If you want to look at some awesome, like, just ratings and power rankings and like metrics for college football, you want to see the really like deep, like nerdy stuff in regards to numbers at college football, at K Ford Ratings on Twitter, Kelly Ford. And you love touting him. Even he on his, honestly, when you had Oklahoma ahead of Texas, I said, okay, they must be ahead on the most deserving and they must be ahead on the power ratings. They weren't. Texas was ahead on both of those as well.
By 2 points.
But they still were ahead, bro. They were ahead.
They'd
And
be underdogs in Norman.
they were ahead, and they were ahead by 2 points in the power ratings. They were ahead in the most deserving. They're ahead in strength of record. They're ahead in strength of schedule. They've got the best win of them, of both of them. They've got, I know that, who everybody wants to talk about, well, it's not tout losses. freaking one of your losses is by 7 points on the road at the defending national champs who's undefeated, that is a good loss when we're talking about, well, we got to compare the losses now between the teams. That is a good loss. His best loss was, I guess, to Ole Miss at home
Texas.
because it wouldn't be it ain't a good loss that they got an absolute cheek clapping 23-6. 23-6 on the field 3 weeks ago. So that's not the only thing, but when we're talking about the overall resume, I just feel like it has to matter. This is just something that I'll admit, we've been doing this for 3 years. Yes, we have some stuff we disagree on. We actually do agree on more things than we disagree on. We do. Some people will get mad at us sometimes because we agree so much. We're not just going to come on here and do like the old school radio stuff and just say, hey, man, you take one side and I'll take the other, even though we don't believe on that. You and I talked about when we first did this show, we would never do that. And we don't. We don't ever do that. And I think this is the first time I can honestly say that I just was beyond dumbfounded. You actually sent me the text. I love it when you're dumbfounded.
He almost sent me. I bet you he almost sent me a text. You don't know ball.
No, definitely wouldn't do that. Definitely wouldn't do that. You definitely know ball. But I was really surprised at how dug in you were on this. But I will. One thing I want to make sure I say here, because you just said something a minute ago that I don't think should matter. For Texas and Oklahoma should be ranked today. If Texas goes and loses by 35 on the road in Athens in 2 weeks, that has nothing to do with where they should be ranked today.
I know. I just said they may make me look dumb. Back to the Future. 2 weeks prior, people may look back on this and be like, this dude had Texas, ranked, behind Oklahoma, and they just beat Georgia and Georgia.
And they made me look dumb for not having them ranked where I should have had them ranked last week. So that's okay. I just think Texas should be ranked ahead of Oklahoma right now, today. And
you and many others.
Yeah.
But let's get to a lot of people who didn't have Texas ranked ahead of Oklahoma, and that's the AP poll. Number 25. Let's see where the AP poll really messed up. We're going to get to it really quick. Number 25, Cincinnati. They dropped 8 spots, so they're still in there at number 25. Washington, 24. They hop in without playing a game, and that's happened a lot this year. Number 23, Tennessee. Tennessee's still ranked number 23.
Should not be ranked.
And I know people listening to this, watching this right now, they're saying, well, we all know why they're ranked. We all know why they're ranked, right? Get those SEC teams a ranked win, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I don't know why they're still in there. They shouldn't. I mean, I had them at 22 or 23 before they lost this week. So no idea why they're still in there. Iowa's still 26, still not even in the top 25. Iowa should be ahead of Tennessee. Pittsburgh should be ahead of Tennessee. They're not even the best 3-loss team out there.
Pitt absolutely should be in there. And I agree. Iowa should be in there. Both of them should be in there.
Yeah.
Tennessee should not. Tennessee actually does not have a resume building type win to be 5-3 to be in the top 25.
Yeah. Number 22, Memphis. Number 21, Michigan. 20, USC. They hop up 3 spots.
Time out. Memphis is ahead of Tennessee, though.
Memphis is 1 spot ahead of Tennessee.
Hey, shout out to my in-laws. Them seeing that Memphis logo ahead of Tennessee. I'm glad you told me that. When we get off this thing, dude, I'm going to send the screenshot of the AP poll to them.
Yeah.
They're going to love that.
Yep. Mizzou is still in there at 19. That might be short-lived. Again, they don't project on this. They just, resume. But again, I'm not sure really what Mizzou's done on their resume other than have some good losses. So Miami drops 8 spots all the way down to number 18. Utah rises up 7 spots, 1 spot in front of them at number 17. Georgia Tech drops 8 spots for their loss down to 16. Vandy drops 6 spots for losing on the road to Texas. I think that's pretty. I mean, Georgia Tech, inexcusable loss. Miami, inexcusable loss. Vandy on the road to Texas. Like, those are proper drops right there. Like, I've seen crazier things by the AP poll, but Louisville up 2 spots to 14. Texas moved up 7 spots in the AP from 20 to 13. UVA moved up 3 spots to number 12. It'll be interesting to see where the committee has them
I
on
agree.
uh,
They're
Tuesday
they're
night.
one of the main teams that I've got a few teams in my head that I'm already like, where does the committee? They're one of them.
Yeah. Uh, Oklahoma moved up 7 spots, so the same as Texas to number 11. So they are 2 spots in front of Texas with the same record. Um, I know Reddit CFB puts out the individual, polls and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how many people had Oklahoma ahead of Texas, how many people had Texas, how many people had Texas, far back in the later teens and stuff. Notre Dame number 10, they move up 2 spots. Texas Tech 9, they move up 4 spots. Big win on the road against Kansas State. I know it's a big win. They were favored by 7, but they won that game pretty handily. And BYU moved up 2 spots to number 8. Top 7 is the same. You got Ole Miss at 7, Oregon 6, Georgia 5, Alabama 4, A&M 3, Indiana 2, Ohio State 1. I'd have to look and see. Oh, at week 10 here, still the same amount of first place votes for Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M from week 10 to week 11. So nobody really changed their stuff. Our top 12 again, our top 12, top 7 was the same as last week as well. So um, let's bring up real quick projection. We'll show this on Tuesday night on our live show, but our college football playoff projections for week 11, we're not projecting out to the end of the year and like what we think is going to happen in those games. That will be a lot different. But what we would do if we were on the committee right now, and you can see on the screen, week 11, we would have Indiana as our number 1 seed. And then we would have Ohio State 2 down at the bottom, A&M 3, and Alabama 4. You would have a home game in Lubbock. You have the Ducks going to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. That will be a really fun game. Memphis going down to Athens to play Georgia. Yikes. Uh, Louisville playing Ole Miss down in Oxford. So that would be interesting. And then Catholics versus the Mormons. Notre Dame going out to Provo to play BYU.
That'd be a fun
That'll
one.
be a fun one. Look, projecting, you could have Texas Tech playing Indiana. You could have another Georgia Alabama match at some neutral site. I don't even know how they would do that. Honestly, I was thinking about this. I don't know. And this could be a session for the live show. Like these Big Ten teams, like you get to choose your, like if Indiana was a number 1 seed, like where would they choose to go out of? I think it's like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. I want to say the Cotton Bowl, and I can't remember the fourth one. Maybe the Orange Bowl. But I think you would have to look at the bracket to see, like, okay, like for instance, like if Georgia is a potential opponent for a team in the second round, you're not going to choose the Peach Bowl, And Ohio State, like the Big Ten teams have none of these bowls around them. Like, would Ohio State, if they were going to play Ole Miss in the second round, be like, you know what, let's just go out to the Rose Bowl, good old Rose Bowl, where we just dominate fools. Like, where they go to the Cotton Bowl, where they have had tons of success down in Dallas.
They would
Um,
not. I'll be honest with you. If it's Ole Miss, they would not want to go to Dallas. Ole
yeah,
Miss
I
has a
mean,
huge alumni there.
it's a lot, and I mean, heck, you could get an A&M Ole Miss matchup in the quarterfinals, maybe in the Cotton Bowl,
Yep,
you know, and
it's a good point.
Ohio
It's a good
State,
point that
Notre Dame, yeah,
the geography, some of that stuff will matter.
yeah,
Absolutely. But dudes, again, just thinking about that on my head, looking at that on the screen, seeing Notre Dame in Provo, man, in a playoff game in Provo, how sick that would be.
hmm
And then Oregon and Texas Tech and Lubbock. Whoo, yeah, that'd be a blast. If it turned out to be something like that, like I said, the either Texas Tech playing Indiana, like on our bracket, or Oregon, Indiana in a rematch.
yeah,
Yeah, it's fun, man, to start putting these brackets together like this and starting to see them actually on a screen and on paper like that. Because honestly, I mean, seeing a bracket, we love March Madness. Seeing it with college football now like this is so much fun.
yeah, yep. All right, programming note once again, we'll be live on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and on X. Come join us. Come watch the CFP committee rankings, and we'll dissect all the things that are going on with the committee and whatever they decide to do. I know we went a little long tonight. We had a ton to talk about. It's getting in the weeds, man. It's November. There's all kinds of things happening, all kinds of things to dissect. So we appreciate you guys staying with us as long as you have. Again, follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. For Lance Barton, I'm Tyler Nohe. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.